October 28th, 2019, or the other way around if you're in the Badlands. This day marks the release of probably one of the most influential cartoons from Gen Z, Hazbin Hotel's pilot. The creator was inspired by Seth Rogan and South Park, and it really shows. It was gory, vulgar, and an instant success, receiving millions of views within its first week on YouTube. Now, it sits at 114 million views at the time of recording. Its creator, Vivziepop, is not some nobody either. She's been working in the animation industry for years, learning and growing from all of her peers until she was finally able to turn her pilot into reality. But it didn't just stop there. A24 would pick up the show, turning this silly pilot 11 years into the making into a fully fledged TV show. I don't think it's crazy to say that Hazbin inspired a lot of indie creators who you might be seeing now. After a story like that, even I was excited for the show's proper release. And I didn't even like the pilot that much. Oh, don't worry, I still liked it. I just thought too much was going on in some places, and that caused the pacing to be a little bit odd. Like a friend excitedly trying to tell you about all of the parts of JoJo's in 30 minutes. But I'm sure these issues will be ironed out in the A24 release of the show. I was doubly confident as Vivzi had been running another show basically since the pilot for Hazbin released, Helluva Boss. Honestly, with Vivzi's track record, I'd say this show is gonna be really good. Hello. I have now watched all of Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss, and I only have one thing to say. Everything was terrible, it was all a lie, God is dead! Exaggerating aside, I did not enjoy most of my time watching these shows. There's this golden nugget right in the middle, but other than that, I was either bored, frustrated, and on rare occasions, intrigued. I'll let you decide if that was a good or bad thing. So, oranges, does this mean that Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss are bad? No, it's a lot more complicated than that. Cause there was a lot of things I really liked about the Spindleverse. It's just that all of the things I like are sullied by terrible choices that make me question the writer's intentions. And that's kind of the point of this video. Why did these things happen? And is there a way to solve them with my objectively better opinion? This video isn't supposed to make you feel dumb for liking these shows or anything like that. This fanbase is filled with so many skilled people, from the VAs to the people making the fan works. And I don't want to belittle people who are just having a good time. In fact, the people I respect the most are those who can enjoy something that I didn't, and still choose to watch this silly little video. Christ's little video, I'm just a bloody liar. A brief explanation of the plot of Hazbin Hotel, for real, like 30 seconds tops I promise, is that every year a group of angels come down to hell to cull some of their numbers. Our main character, Charlie, sick of watching this genocide, tries to rehabilitate some of hell's worst sinners to prove the flaws in their system. This is a very simple premise that still allows the writers to get really creative. With the story literally being set in hell, there would be a lot of places artists could pull from for inspiration. The main plot set up by the pilot is super interesting too. A show tackling the complexity and societal differences of what makes a good or bad person is objectively interesting. Yeah, everything feels so uninspired. I have the artistic ability on par with a sperm cell, so I won't act like I could ever do something like this. But Hazbin's character designs use a mix of biblical imagery, if described by a 5-year-old, and animal designs. So why do so many people look the same? If you put the silhouette of most of the Hazbin cast on a line, I don't think you'd be able to tell most of them apart. There is only one character who doesn't have the Vivziepop torso in this show, and that's Mimsy. And once you notice that, you see it in every character. I can't call these designs lazy, however, because there was some real thought put into these. Going back to Lucifer for a second, he has an apple and snake motif, you know, referencing the Bible. He also has the same cheek marks as Charlie, signifying their relationship as father and daughter. He's also the funniest character in the whole show.
This is Vaggie. She's my girlfriend.
Oh my golly, you like girls! So do I! We have so much in common!
Angel is based off a moth, and another character he's associated with is based off a spider. Then you've got the whole predator and prey dynamic. Anyway, I just lied to you. It's Angel who's based off a spider. The point I was trying to make is, even with the intentions of the designs spelled out to me, either in the show or the wiki, these designs don't do the things they're based off any justice, in my opinion. I unfortunately feel the same about a lot of writing choices made too. The question of whether sinners can actually be redeemed is answered in the lamest way, I think. As a sociology dropout, my mother is very disappointed. Criminology was one of my favorite parts. Not all crimes are done for the same reason. If a person steals to feed their starving family and another steals for sheer greed, should they be put in the same box for committing the same crime? Hazbin had the opportunity to tackle this, but instead the show chooses the easiest option, with heaven being unfair. All of the higher ups are acting with malice, and Charlie is obviously correct. More on that last part later. The same critique can be applied to a lot of the choices made in season 1. Another major plot point is that people from heaven are impervious to any attacks made by sinners. However, during the last purge, one of the executioners was decapitated by someone. We don't know who yet, but heaven thinks it was someone from hell. 2 episodes later, a character shows this head to a bunch of hell's most powerful beings. Another character gives a nervous look, implying she might know something about what happened. I thought, wow, the show is setting up a murder mystery that another one of the characters will have to solve in order to fend off heaven's executioners. I imagine this is gonna take episodes, and this Camilla lady—
The veiled angel, 'twas by thy hand, was it not?
Oh, it seems while I was talking about the mystery, it had already been solved. I'm not even necessarily mad this reveal happened in the span of a single episode. I'm more mad that a character we literally just met is responsible for one of the biggest storylines in season 1. And then they give her a bloody duet with a character she's never interacted with. Like, blood. You are not part of the team. All interesting and nuanced storytelling is thrown out at nearly every opportunity. Charlie goes back to heaven in episode 6 in order to try and convince them to stop their yearly genocide, which they have increased to every 6 months. Adam wants to keep the fact that people in heaven are committing genocide a secret, so he goes up to Vaggie and drops the bomb that she is an angel. See, you could have figured this one out because Vaggie has the same cross on her eyes that a lot of the executioners have with their masks for some reason. But you know, you're rewarded for paying attention. I had that moment where I audibly said, "Oh, of course. How did I not see it before?" And that's good. But this moment is instantly undercut by probably the greatest reveal in the history of anything ever.
I wouldn't forget a bad bitch like you. It's why I named you after the best thing ever. Vaggie.
This hit me like a friggin' freight train. Who wrote this? Why is this right next to the reveal that Vaggie has been lying to her partner the entire time? What the hell? After moving past the "that's why I named you after the best thing ever," episode 6 does really start to pick up. Charlie proves that her hotel is working and manages to also get Adam to reveal that Hell's citizens are getting exterminated. I mean this one with no sarcasm. No asterisks. Okay, there is one, and no thinly veiled shot at the writing. This song and scene with Emily and Charlie is really good. Now, I haven't spoken a lot about any of the songs in Hazbin because I either thought they were mid or bad, but the song You Didn't Know sounds good and has some very striking visuals. Sarah staring at Emily with the flames of the extermination in her eyes, while she said that this was what needed to be done, contrasted by Emily finally finding out this extermination was going on behind her back, while the visuals of the extermination are literally happening behind her back. This is that good stuff in a vacuum. Now, remember how I said my biggest issue was all interesting plot points in Hazbin get solved in a lackluster way? The reveal of the yearly extermination comes from Adam randomly blurting it out after being under zero pressure.
A man only lives once, we'll see you in 1 month. Gotta say, I can't wait to come down and exterminate you.
Wait!
Shit.
I really don't get how this would make any sense for Adam. His whole reason for threatening Vaggie in the first place was to make sure this secret stayed just that. Adam is so unbelievably incompetent, it physically hurts sometimes. You can write a villain who can get in their own way because of their flaws. Adam is an egotistical, misogynistic, sadistic freak, but not an idiot. He kept this secret for years, maybe even decades. It's not like Charlie was actually convincing anyone. Him doing this only makes sense in disrupting heaven, which has no effect on the next 2 episodes as exterminators still come down trying to kill everyone. This was so confusing. A phrase I could use for the next 2 episodes as well. After the reveal that angels can be hurt, the next few episodes ignore it. But in episode 7, Alastor reveals this info to Charlie and Vaggie. She's surprised.
He gave me info that can save the hotel, but we're going to need help. The angels can be defeated, and Carmilla is the key.
What? Carmilla Carmine?
She killed an exorcist in the last extermination. She knows how they can be harmed.
But I didn't even know that was possible.
What do you mean you didn't know that was possible? How do you think they stabbed out your eye and cut off your wings? Having a character not think about how something happened to her is already annoying enough. But later in this episode, Vaggie goes back to Carmilla to figure out how she did it. And the reveal is... angels can be hurt with their own weapons. And if you're wondering how Charlie feels regarding Vaggie's betrayal, don't worry, she and another character who you met in the same episode talk about it.
My girlfriend is an exorcist angel, and she never told me.
Oh, shit! How does that make you feel?
Just angry because we share everything. Because she always supported me and my ideas, and now I don't know whether or not that was just more of the lies. Oh no, that's a horrible thing to think. Do I think that? Yes. No.
Wow, I sure am glad a character's internal struggle has been externalized onto a person who she just met. How do I convey that a character is very conflicted? I know, I'll just make them say it to a stranger. Y'all got any subtlety? We got dick jokes. So a thing I really enjoy about shows for adults is that they don't feel the need to explain everything to me like I'm a child. Sometimes a slight change in expression or body language is enough to convey what a character is thinking or feeling. Hazbin rarely does this, which is weird because my favorite parts of the show is when the audience is given the rare treat of being allowed to think for themselves. I understand that musicals either explain a character's situation or their current feelings. I have come to peace with that just happening sometimes in Hazbin Hotel. But even with just dialogue scenes, I feel this constant "do you get it?" at everything. Also, not everything needs to be subtle. That isn't what I'm trying to say. I'm more so saying that being subtle can make things more impactful. Let's take Adam for example. In his introduction, he comes off as dismissive, rude, and like super high off his own supply. These are good traits to give him, but I felt like making these traits harder to realize would have honestly just made the entire Heaven plot a lot more digestible for me. How do you show his dismissiveness? Well, have Charlie genuinely talk about this plan and make her think he's invested before revealing that he refused to acknowledge any of it. With a simple, sweeping phrase like, "Fine speech, but yada yada, we don't change our minds." A similar thing could happen with how you show his rudeness. A few dirty looks Charlie's way, how he addresses people from hell, something like that would be good. I think him calling all women around him babe is genius characterization. It tells you so much about how he sees women with just one little word. I think he could have worked better if he acted more like a higher up in customer support. I'm sure you all know what I mean. Someone who is indifferent to your dissatisfaction, but can act so remorseful when you call them, even though they have no intention of really helping you. Imagine if at the end of Charlie's first meeting, he hits the "sorry, there really isn't anything I can do." That's a phrase that would piss off most people, but it would go further when Charlie begins protesting and he shows his real hatred of those from hell. Instead, his traits are basically yelled out until you understand that this guy is a dick.
It's nice to meet you.
Totally. Nice to meet you too.
Ugh.
Ha! I fucking got you. Did you fucking see that? Good shit.
Oh, I think he's the bad guy. You know, all that nonsense. There's plenty more examples I could use, but I felt that Adam is one of the funnier ones, especially because there was a chance he could have been good. Actually, maybe I'm being too harsh. It's not like a character just points out everyone's flaws and makes any thought you put behind understanding these characters meaningless. Oh wait!
That's bullshit. You get drunk and bitch about him all the time. I know everything about you and these motherfuckers at this point. That one is an insecure buffoon whose lonely ass watches you idiots sleep. Princess is a bleeding heart who wants to solve everybody else's problems except her own. This one judges everyone and everything because she hates herself. And Nifty? Yeah, you don't even want to know what her deal is.
You know, I really feel like this show respects my intelligence as a viewer. That's why it constantly needs to tell me how I'm supposed to think about something instead of letting me draw my own conclusions. I understand that telling your audience something is important. You don't want to confuse them, and that's fine. But having another character basically read off everyone's Hazbin Hotel wiki pages rubs me the wrong way. A scene like this wouldn't be necessary if characters in Hazbin Hotel were actually given time to develop. This scene feels like an IOU, the most hand-nigga damn way to ever give someone characterization I think I've ever seen. We don't need to show these people being compelling. We can just tell you all of their struggles. That's the same thing, right? Same thing happens in episode 3. The main cast are told to do trust exercises. They all say their quirky lines and then that's it. Vaggie just grabs everyone and says, "We're gonna learn how to work together," and then it cuts back to them all being friends at the hotel. This genuinely feels like a joke, but it's played fully seriously. They even start recalling events that happened during the fight, and it's like, wouldn't it have been nice to, I don't know, see them becoming friends? Jesus Christ. But don't worry, episode 3 was actually completely useless because Charlie complains that the hotel isn't working in episode 5. Well, that's 25 minutes I will never ever get back. Once again, this info is told to us. I truly believe that unless a character looks at the camera and explains what's happening, then it just didn't. No wonder everyone ignores episode 3. A character didn't pull up on screen and say, "Whoa guys, I can't believe we're all friends now." It bugs me so much because there are moments where the audience can understand something with just the visuals. In episode 3, a character who's supposed to be scary makes multiple people run at the sight of him while he's talking to an associate. It does kinda get dragged out, but more of this, please, I'm begging you. I would have groaned so hard if a character appeared and said something like, "Oh wow, I can't believe this guy is here. He's so terrifying, I can't even bear to look at him." It would be kind of like writing a strong character and then the only way that strength is utilized is by having other people glaze him. What? How did this picture of Alastor get here? Alastor is probably the worst victim of the writers telling us how to feel about something instead of showing us. Alastor is one of the strongest dudes in hell. It's one of the first things we hear about him.
What's the deal with Smiles over there?
Wait, you've never heard of him before? You've been here longer than me. The radio demon, one of the most powerful beings hell has ever seen.
Not big on politics.
However, the way this is actually shown to the audiences... Let me just show you. Alastor effortlessly takes down a character we just met. In episode 2, we find out that he beat this dude called Vox in a fight. Do you get it? 3 episodes later, he kills a bunch of thugs that were just introduced. And in that same episode, we get the info that Alastor killed a bunch of Hell's overlords, who are supposed to be these really strong people, or at least that's what all the characters and the wiki say about these guys. They don't really do much, to be honest. Alastor then fights Adam and gets completely jobbed, then runs away. Wait, what? Alastor's track record consists of a joke character, a bunch of no-names, and... oh, that's it. But don't worry. The season spends a noticeable amount of time trying to make this guy seem like a big shot, with his glitchy effects and sadistic smile. All of the other underdeveloped characters in Hazbin Hotel will constantly remind you that he's a big deal. You know, 15 years ago, he killed all the overlords and played their screams on the radio. Most people can't even bear to look at him. All this hype, and the second he has to fight a real character, he folds. Did he have the flu or something? Like, I don't know if this was the writer's attempt at using the Worf effect. Have a strong character get beaten by a new one to immediately establish them as a threat. But that requires me to believe that the character's actually strong? If I dropkick a baby and then lose a fight to a random lad at a pub, your first thought would not be, wow, bloke sure is strong for beating Tyboard Oranges, the baby drop kicker. It's, wow, I heard this guy kicks babies. Probably got what he deserved. But don't worry, Alastor sings a merry tune about him breaking out of his chains and becoming the real big bad. Right. It has been a while since I have seen such a blatant industry plant character. I'm about to make myself sound completely insane when I say this, but the only way I can properly criticize this character is by talking about the fundamentals of a Tumblr Sexyman. A Tumblr Sexyman, for anyone who hates fun, is a character in a show, movie, game, whatever, that stands out amongst the main cast for being a little too quirky. Perfect example is Sans, the winner of the 2022 Tumblr Sexyman tournament. Though he's kind of the exception because every other major one is a skinny white dude. Hell, even if they weren't, yes they are. Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Queen, who died on the same day the tournament concluded. Rest in peace. I feel like Alastor is just a mix of the most popular ones, but with none of the sauce. Sans is the strongest guy in the underground, has weird powers, knows way more than any of the characters around him, and can be scary as hell. A very notable thing too is just how depressed he is, knowing that anything he does really has no meaning. These facts were discovered by, by playing the game and watching him interact with others. It's crazy. If Sans was written by Vivziepop, you'd have a character walk into a room and someone say how turbo strong Sans is, and how the player shouldn't mess with him. Sounds familiar? But he's also charismatic and makes deals with people. Unfortunately, he's being limited by something outside of his control. But once he breaks free, then his master plan will come into play. He's also a nice dresser, and despite his psychopathic tendencies, he's a mummy's boy. Aww. This means he can't be all bad, right? Maybe it was a coincidence that Alastor has a bunch of the most popular traits from these characters. Maybe it's a coincidence he also became a Tumblr Sexyman. See, this is what happens when you only take the superficial aspects of these characters into account. Aw, how sweet. Hello, human resources? Sans works because he has to live with the weight of his own insignificance in a world that could be reset at any moment. He's actually funny, and you really have to push him over the edge for him to really show you what he's capable of. And even when he does, he's still messing with you. Bill's cipher worked because he had the relatable goal of being bored with his current life, but having no ways to grasp a new one without making deals with others. The Onceler doesn't work, to be honest. The lyrics suck, but people latched onto him because his good intentions were warped into awful ones. Enter thousands of posts saying they could fix him. Alastor has Sans' strength, Bill's bargaining ability, and the Onceler's tragic backstory, I guess. The man loses all of his source for me because everyone else got popular by accident. This dude was made in a lab and given the perfect traits to set Tumblr ablaze. He's also a bum and a fraud, and I'm tired of pretending he's not. Oh my god, I need to get a girlfriend. Hey, did you know that Alastor is a mixed race Creole? I did have to look this up, but Creole in Louisiana, the place Alastor is born, could refer to people who have French, Spanish, African American, or Native American ancestry. There is a chance Alastor is black, and that would mean that other characters have races. Why do characters in Hazbin Hotel have races? I made like notes about representation in some of the episodes. I didn't plan on really speaking about it as it wasn't that big of a deal, but then I read Alastor's wiki page and I lost it. I appreciate that Vivzi hired VAs and singers from different ethnic, racial, and national backgrounds. I'm not about to criticize a person for doing something that I think more people should be doing. This section isn't about to be some, oh, Vivzi fell off because it woke nonsense. I live in the real world where people who aren't white men also exist and should keep existing. I just kinda... How are these people black? I don't know if I'm overthinking this, but all of the characters in the show can be a range of colors. Some people are blue, some are green, but I noticed that all of the black characters are colored the same way when no one else gets that treatment. Like if Vox, the TV man, was black, would his TV also become the shade of gray that the other black characters are? Isn't it a bit weird to allow other characters from other races to take on these crazy non-human forms, while all of the black ones don't? What exactly were you trying to say when you had one of these characters' angelic form turn them white? Ah, of course she's white. Everyone's perfect in heaven. No one was forcing you into this situation. You could have just said nothing. Everyone's race could have been up to interpretation. This kinda adds on to my theory that characters are made first and then get random quirks attached to them, like their race, and then the writers have no clue how to deal with these issues. This was something I didn't want to talk about. It's already such an uncomfortable situation as is, and as someone who has suffered similar abuse in the past, I don't even really see the fun of picking at a bad depiction of something so close to my heart. I'll keep this as brief as I possibly can, but this episode is mainly focused on Angel Dust. Angel is a victim of the verbal, physical, and sexual abuse of his boss, the man who also currently owns Angel's soul. He threatens to hurt Charlie if Angel doesn't comply with his demands, which includes sexual acts. This constant stream of abuse starts to really affect Angel Dust as he lashes out at all of his friends and does even more self-destructive acts to help him forget. The issues with the episode begin right here, right after dealing with a lot of heavy stuff. The show decides to play this upbeat jazz music while Husk has a bar fight with some dudes who try to roofie Angel Dust. They continue fighting and then go back to talking about these heavy topics. Angel explaining why he is the way he is, and Husk responding by calling Angel Dust a loser and whiny in an upbeat song. It would be nice to handle this with any tact. Having a character recall very traumatic events and then have a character respond with, "Don't worry bro, we're the same. I was a gambler." It's just a bit of a slap to the face, isn't it? I wish I could play any of this scene to really describe the tonal whiplash I got from this episode, but you know, copyright and all that, and I want this video to be seen by people outside of Rwanda. This even leaks down into other episodes. Episode 4 makes a big show about things like SA needing to be handled with care. So in episode 6, they have a character get dragged into the room and sexually assaulted as a joke. In the description, I feel like most of the main cast suffer from one of the issues I listed in these little subpart thingies I'm doing. I think the perfect candidate for the pacing issue is Sir Pentious and his redemption. In episode 2, he pretends to play by the hotel's rules so he can spy on them. But after being betrayed by Vox, the cast sings and he just stops being evil. In every episode he appeared in beforehand, he was just some mook. But all of a sudden, in a single song, all of his bad intentions are erased. Actually, past this point, he becomes someone who desperately needs the validation of others. A good character trait that would have been nice to know before his shift into a protagonist. The elements of a good character are there, but everything has been expertly put together incorrectly. He doesn't really do much in the next couple of episodes, except gain a crush on Cherry Bomb, a character who can probably play the electric guitar. But in the last episode, he launches an attack at Adam and gets one-shotted. But you see, the main cast are actually really shaken up by his death for some reason. Like, I thought this was supposed to be a joke, but then Charlie actually starts crying? Have Charlie and Sir Pentious even spoken to each other in a meaningful conversation? But then Sir Pentious goes to heaven? I do see what they were trying to do here. Have a character be redeemed in death and all, but I can't buy it. Similar to Alastor, Pentious is betrayed by the plot one way, and the things I've seen him do have led me to believe something completely different. That single line basically sums up my feelings on the show in general. Hazbin Hotel was only given 8 episodes for their first season, and you can really tell the writers needed more. A lot of characters and ideas are thrown at us throughout the season. Some of them get like maybe a line of dialogue. Some ideas that should be given more time are dealt with in the span of an episode. I want to blame Amazon alone for this decision, but the time Hazbin Hotel got just wasn't used effectively by the writers. Episode 3 having the characters getting along, only for 2 episodes later we find out the hotel is actually not working, and episode 3 didn't happen. Episode 1's B-plot has the characters make an ad for the hotel, and I don't think this ever comes up again. I feel like they had an idea of where they wanted to end season 1, weren't given the time, and then crammed as much as they could into the season. And yet, I feel like nothing happened. No, that's not right. Things happened, but with the large group of characters and concepts being introduced every episode, I just didn't care. At a certain point, the episodes started blending together in my brain, so I was relieved when the season ended because it meant I could do anything else of substance with my life. And that should not be the way I feel after finishing a season of TV. It's the opposite of how I felt after the pilot. Actually, when I compare this to the pilot, I have to admit, from an entertainment and visual standpoint, the pilot was better. I said at the start of the video that the pilot felt like the writers were cramming way too many ideas into 30 minutes, and that hasn't changed. In fact, they have even less time now. My overall score of Hazbin Hotel was a 2 out of 10. Me and my friend's opinion on the rest of the season should be up on screen now. I cannot express how little I was looking forward to watching the next 2 seasons of Vivziepop's other show. Like honestly, do I just like stop now? I'm not really having fun. But screw it. We made it this far, so might as well continue. Wait, this is good. This is really good. What the fuck? God, I hate when videos take so long. You can literally see me age. Luckily, I have the brand new beard hedger to fix all of my— okay, this video is sponsored by Manscaped. You've already heard about the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Powerful yet soft on the delicate areas, 60 minutes of battery life, and waterproof. This updated model comes with 2 different skin-safe blades. The one we're all used to, and a brand new foil blade that allows for an even sharper cut, leaving your skin completely smooth and clear. It's like magic, to be honest. It can cut down anything. But now we've got something new. I want to show off the beard hedger. 20 different length options, 60 minutes of battery life, a styling comb, travel bag. If I wasn't crying alone in the shower, I would have taken the beard hedger out for my Valentine's. I always look my best, both above and below, with these razors. So check out Manscaped. Get 20% off and free international shipping with my code DBO at checkout, or just use the link at the top of the description and be taken right to the Manscaped website. My balls are thanking me for this one, and I'm thanking Manscaped for sponsoring this video. When I was at my wit's end with Hazbin Hotel and was ready to give up, a bright ray of sunshine shot through my room. Was this my salvation? Why is the weather in London so awful? Helluva Boss was the breath of fresh air I desperately needed after Hazbin Mid-Tell. It might sound like I'm hyping up season 1 way too much, but it literally has none of the issues I had with Hazbin. The color palette of Hazbin felt kinda limited in places. Helluva, taking place in a mix of hell and earth, allows for more varied colors each episode. Even hell looks better. There's an episode that takes place only in hell, and everything looks so pretty. Hazbin, I think, just looked worse. There are a bunch of stale bits of animation in places, or whatever this was, but it didn't bother me enough to talk about it until now. Until I saw what we could have had, you know? Because Helluva doesn't have to hit evil deadlines set by billion-dollar corporations, each episode is as long as it needs to be. So the pacing is perfect. I was constantly engaged, and there wasn't a single moment where I felt like something went on for too long, or that time was being wasted. The dialogue too is also just a lot more charming. I'd say like 90% of the stuff that came from the characters' mouths in Hazbin were press X to interact phrases that felt pretty hollow. Helluva has some absolute bangers.
Fine, whatever! Oh, Blitz, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to feel your slimy inside of my Gotcha!
I should probably talk about the show's premise like I did at the start of part 1, 30 minutes ago, oh my god. The plot of Helluva season 1 is that our main character, Blitzo, the O is silent, runs a mercenary company that specifically deals with disgruntled sinners who want revenge on people still living in Earth. That does come with a catch. Oh, this owl dude named Stolis trades a monthly Night of Passion for unlimited use of a grimoire that allows Blitz to come and go into the human realm whenever he wants, and without express permission from some of Hell's higher-ups. All of this is explained in 3 minutes, but it doesn't even feel like you're receiving exposition. And after the last 35 minutes, you probably have a shocked expression on your face. And my response is, I know, right? In fact, this scene is used to give characterization to the rest of the main cast as well. Moxie is a nervous guy who isn't exactly the best at this whole murdering families thing. His wife, Millie, treats this like it isn't that deep, which kind of clues us into how used to killing she is. And Luna is a teenager. Helluva Boss is no Better Call Saul in terms of compelling characters, and it doesn't need to be. We get their basic traits in the first episode, and then that gets expanded on. What? No, not her. Blitz seems like he's only going to be a random quirky and dirty character, but we figure out that he stalks all of his employees and has a very weird fascination with Millie and Moxie's relationship, because he's a lonely dude. Moxie seems like he's going to be a little bit of a coward to contrast Blitz, but he starts to gain more and more confidence as time goes on, and you see those changes happen naturally in the story, culminating with him talking out his issues with Blitz in a drug-induced musical number. Oh, that wasn't a lie, by the way. That, like, literally, like, I'm just stating facts. Stolis is first shown off as this horny weirdo, but we find out he has a daughter who just wants to spend time with him after a messy divorce. The episode these two share in season 1 is really sweet, with Stolis realizing he hasn't been trying to understand his daughter, and then trying to fix that. The cast of Helluva is also a lot smaller too, so there's less people fighting for screen time so they can get their quirky one-liner out instead of actually becoming a real character. Also, did I mention that this show is really funny?
Satan, we return your filthy creatures back to the pits of hell. May the root of evil remain honored as we continue thy work.
Yeah, that's not exactly how it works, ladies. Sorry, your fire doesn't really hurt us, but I mean, I could fake it if that'll get your dick hard.
Oh, shit.
Another reason this series works so well is that each episode is mostly self-contained. The simple plot of, we need to kill this person, could have episodes feel samey, but the situations the characters find themselves in are so different each and every time. It isn't mindless either. There are serialized elements in the show as well, but they are never the primary focus of an episode. They're usually the secondary or even tertiary goal. The characters aren't forced to be stationary. We are always finding out new things about them or watching them develop, and it creates a very satisfying feeling when everything is over. Me and my friend's graph for this season of Helluva is a constant high, episode 6 being my highest rated episode ever, while also hinting at some plot stuff that will surely come back in season 2?
Foreshadowing as a narrative device.
What a beautiful ending to a season. This was a weird feeling, to be completely honest. I thought the state of Hazbin only meant something Vivziepop made earlier would be even worse. And yet it was completely backwards. Helluva felt like a far more focused show because it wasn't juggling as many things as Hazbin needed to, which is also why I denounced the idea that Vivziepop is a terrible writer. Like, objectively, she can cook, so what happened? Look, I have seen Hazbin season 1. I've been incredibly critical of the season, but I don't really think it's a good portrayal of Vivzi's ability as a writer. It seemed like Amazon or A24 or whoever else wanted to screw over the series wherever possible by delaying it and giving it 8 episodes when the story desperately needed like 12 or 24. Helluva came from a place where she was much more inexperienced as a showrunner and as a writer, but probably had a much calmer development time, and also had an incredible co-writer. Brendan Rogers is an integral part of Helluva Boss's creation, and ultimately one of its worst plot points in season 2. But we're a bit too early for that one, so let's look at his close involvement in season 1. Vivzi originally reached out to get Brendan as the voice for Blitz. However, Brendan was so in love with the project, he joined the team as a co-writer, and was given top billings for episodes 1, 3, and 4. He was also credited for writing episodes 2 and 5. So there it is. The real reason Helluva Boss is so good. Vivziepop had help. I'm joking, obviously. The reason I pointed out who received top billing is because it changes depending on the episode. So I assume whoever's name is first wrote the most of what we saw and the other helped. I think Brendan Rogers has a very good understanding of the characters in Helluva Boss. And I think Vivzi is very good at taking advantage of her show's premise to create these fun moments. So when the two work together, we see their best traits. My opinion on Vivziepop as a writer is that she can be very good if someone helps to keep her stories grounded. This isn't a shot at her either. I think most people will agree that having another person to bounce ideas off will help you refine them. My favorite video on my channel literally would not have turned out the way it did if I hadn't shown it to so many people. I've probably done that with this video script as well because I'm a fraud. Vivzi wrote my favorite episode of Helluva all on her own too, saying she felt very confident in it. I really just think the scope of Hazbin Hotel was far too high, and she didn't have the correct writing support. I think this is really felt in the last 2 episodes of season 1, which is entirely written by Vivziepop. The things I praised Helluva for doing aren't really factors in episodes 7 and 8. Both of these episodes take place entirely in Hell and focus a lot on Stolis and Blitz's relationship. There was also a song that felt like it was going on forever, and I did not like it. Apparently it only went on for 2.5 minutes, but I promise you I've aged 5 years after rewatching it. Overall, my enjoyment went down in those last 2 episodes because it felt like the show tripped. I've realized how undescriptive that was, so let's try that again. It feels like the show forgot its own premise for a moment, so the end of the season ended rather weakly to me. But that's a small issue since my overall enjoyment was so high. Little did I know, this tiny minute problem would branch off into something so much bigger. A few minor changes would happen for the writing for Helluva Boss. Firstly, after a discussion, Blitz and Stolis' relationship was going to become a core focus of the show. A writer who did some episodes for Hazbin would be joining the writing team, and Vivziepop would become the main writer for most episodes. I think I would have freaked out if I found out anyone from Hazbin would be helping with season 2, but I lost it when I found out it was a writer. Obviously, I came back to my senses and realized that this is a cartoon and it's not that big of a deal. Like, let's be real. It's honestly not too bad. Also, the show would move towards serialized storytelling. Oh no! If I had to summarize my opinions on the first half of this season, it would be a lot of bad choices. Each episode had something major that bugged me, and I would like to talk about that now. In episode 1, we find out that Stolis and Blitz were childhood friends. I hate this. I think Helluva was so strong because you kind of got the idea from episode 1. Stolis cheated on his wife for Blitz and now has him in a transactional relationship. My intrigue came from how this would affect the future of the show. I have no interest in a past event I find out about retroactively. This was something that was decided on before season 1 was finished. But I think that was a bad decision. There's a reason I want to bring up later, but mainly I just think it's less interesting. Imagine trying to progress a relationship like season 1 Stolis and Blitz into a proper, healthy one. It would have gone hard if they nailed it. That isn't my only issue with this episode either. So the writers want to show how uncaring Blitz's father is, right? So the way they handle that is by having him sell his son's services for $5. Oh my god. What a terrible father. But then afterwards, he tells Blitz to rob Stolis' house. Okay. Why not ask for more money and then have him steal stuff anyway? Look, I know this sounds like a nitpick, okay, it is a nitpick, but this further adds to the idea that the writers had an idea of the scenes they wanted, but no idea how to get there. So we get scenes like the money-hungry father lowballing himself while talking to royalty, only to then ask that kid to steal stuff for him to sell for money. You see why that doesn't make sense?
I'm Stolis. It's nice. Ouch!
Don't bow to that one. He bows to us, idiot.
Okay, no, that was pretty funny. When I watched this episode, I couldn't help but think something was off, and I realized, oh, none of the things I liked about the show were in it. It looks like the show I liked, but was missing the core element. Episode 2 goes back to season 1's format. The cast go to the human world and have fun, but even this has a twist. The reason they even go to Earth in this one is because Octavia, Stolis' daughter, steals Blitz's book and uses it to go to LA to see the stars.
Davey!
Why did Octavia not meet my favorite Hollywood star, Logan Paul? Everything has to be focused on either Stolis or Blitz. Millie and Moxie are completely thrown to the side for the rest of the episode, and we get a callback to last episode? I don't know if my view of these episodes are being hampered by the fact that I watched them all at once. Oop-de-scoop. But normally callbacks happen after some time has passed. Not an episode. Hey, remember when I said oop-de-scoop? Yeah. Also, we get a flashback to how Blitz met Luna in this episode. Okay. I knew this was gonna happen at some point, but doesn't this feel a little bit out of nowhere? Like Blitz has to give up this dog and that reminds him of the reason he adopted Luna. But those two things aren't really comparable. This dog is wanted, whereas Luna wasn't. Anyway, Luna and Octavia have a sweet moment. This is where we say goodbye to Luna as a character, as she stops existing until the show's finale. Episode 3 and 4 are just boring? One goes into detail about how Blitz and Moxie met, and the other has Stolis kidnapped and hospitalized. There was a funny sex toy joke in episode 3. It is later used into oblivion and stops being funny. I really just don't have much to say about these. I do not feel the same about episode 5, however, because oh my god, this episode sucks. This is the first bad Helluva boss episode in my opinion. Blitz finds out his sister has gotten out of rehab and goes looking for her, so Millie and Moxie are tasked with handling episode A's plot. Now, I've gone into how Moxie has insecurities he's working on. In episode 3 of this season, he stood up to his mafia dad, and that was big growth for him. But the lengths Moxie goes to in this episode are really unbelievable. For whatever reason, he really needs these middle school kids to like him, and gets progressively more upset when they show that attention to Millie unconditionally. 2 reasons this doesn't work for me. Number 1, Moxie and Millie are the epitome of couples goals. They talk through everything. They don't get upset with one another. The idea that Moxie would even bother trying to get validation from a bunch of 10-year-olds is already kind of hard to believe, but him not communicating his problem until he snaps at Millie just wouldn't have happened in season 1. It feels like a major step back for his character. Not even regression in the normal way where they start acting like a previous season counterpart, but more that he acts like a version of Moxie we have just never seen. Number 2. This plot just isn't interesting. It's a compilation of unfunny scenes when the B-plot is way more interesting. Blitz's sister, this person who has been hyped up since season 1, is shafted for this plot. This episode could have been saved too. Just actually have the cast together bouncing off one another, or focus on Blitz's plot. This episode felt like they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. Adhere to the reason people like the show, but still have the ending focus on Blitz. That's the only explanation I could think of for why Blitz's sister was turning up in Millie and Moxie's plot. I know some of you are surprised, but I'm being deadly serious. Blitz's sister just shows up in the 3rd act of this episode and then disappears. I hate this. Why are these plots stitched together? Hell, if they were gonna be together, why is Millie and Moxie's plot the focus when neither of them needed the development? Okay, Millie definitely does since she's just a cardboard cutout of a person so far, but Blitz's sister should be treated like a big deal. This was a bad move. My feelings are repeated in the next 2 episodes as well. This question goes out to the other people who have watched Helluva, but might have fallen off after season 1 wrapped up, or haven't gotten around to watching it. In which case, why are you here? Do you remember Fizz? Oh, come on, don't look at me like that. You know, Fizz. The clown that Blitz said he hated back in episode 2. You know, the robo-clown who made fun of Blitz and Stolis on their date. Did you know that he and Blitz were actually childhood friends who drifted apart due to unfortunate circumstances? Who asked for this? Look, serialized storytelling can work. Believe me. But some people don't need it. Some guys are just assholes Blitz met in his past. It felt like that was how Fizz was built up this whole time too, until suddenly he and his partner became a parallel to Blitz and Stolis' relationship. Oh, and he doesn't just get 1 episode. He gets a whole 58 minutes to waste time and make my life worse. I just need to remind people that Millie has received, like, 0 development or episodes about her. But we've got time to introduce all of these characters who are going to be super important in the finale.
Also, if you're a chick, maybe give up on your dreams now, because I'm not gonna lie, women just ain't funny.
These episodes didn't leave me as bored as ones previous, but they weren't good either. Fizz is being held at gunpoint by another character I didn't bother introducing. He's not important. He starts singing, and for whatever reason, nobody shoots at him. It's like they wanted him to get away. That is seriously the only thing worth noting in episode 6. 7 attempts to talk about toxic fans and industries that expect their talent to be less than human. I just wish I cared about this happening at all. This show is allergic to giving attention to the characters that actually need it. It's tragic. Also, just to make a note, they have only gone to Earth twice in the episodes I've talked about so far. I'm fine with the stories in Hell. I'm fine with episodes carrying on plot points to the next. It's not the reason I like the show, but if the show was better for it, I wouldn't mind. But it's not. All of the fun has been sapped out for the sake of making everything focused on Stolis and Blitz. Oh, this is how they met. Oh wow, their kids are talking. Don't these two just make you think of Stolis and Blitz? I just wanted to watch a silly little show, and now I've sunk cost fallacied my way into this toxic yaoi nonsense. Now I have to see how this ends, for the hope that somehow, just maybe the next episodes fix everything. Hey, it's future me again? Spoilers, it doesn't. This was another thing I wanted to avoid like the plague, but I realized while looking through my notes that most of my issues with the latter half of the season have some sort of ties to this relationship. A relationship which this show will bend every layer of reality to make happen. I have already gone over how every episode will, without fail, become about Blitz, Stolis, or Stolis and Blitz, even if it comes at the detriment to the rest of the cast. Millie has not gotten any development for the entire show. When we do get glimpses into her life, it's still done to serve other characters, like Moxie in season 1 and now Blitz. After having a messy fight with Stolis, Blitz needs to get his groove back and Millie tries to help. We do get her backstory in this episode, but it's a lot more hollow compared to everyone else's. Moxie's backstory came the episode he stood up to his terrible evil dad. Luna came when she acknowledged her love for Blitz. Millie's came after she gets rightfully mad at Blitz for wasting time and company funds. And then she apologizes for that? What? You were right! She doesn't receive a single dramatic change by the end of the episode. I've said this before, but Millie is only ever used as the main cast's emotional support animal, and you'd think this would eventually cause her to snap. She always suppresses her feelings for the sake of others, and she's at her limit, but that never happens. Vivzie did say characters close to Blitz would get episodes about them, so why hasn't Blitz's best friend gotten one for the last 2 seasons? This became a big enough issue that Vivziepop would tweet about well, someone on Reddit archived it. Basically, Vivziepop tells everyone not to worry and that Millie will be getting her own episode before the season ends. I'm joking, of course. Vivzie just explains Millie's character, which, after an hour of me complaining about the show doing exactly that, is really funny, but also that she has big plans for Millie. Oh, and also that people are misunderstanding her character because there's no angst. Anyway, in episode 12, Blitz chooses to spare a family instead of killing them, and Millie blows a gasket and starts tweaking at Blitz. But then also Moxie.
We'll do it next time. It's just not worth it.
Don't start, Moxie! Just because you aren't demon enough to do this job doesn't mean... I'm sorry.
Sweetie, I know it's Sinsmas and it's in the spirit of wrath, but are you okay?
I'm fine. I don't know what's gotten into me today.
Is this the show planting seeds for Millie's betrayal? Oh my god, I get it now! Millie has never had an issue with killing anyone. She was a hired gun. The muscle. This was the main reason Blitz hired her, and with the company's money problems, she knows she can't afford to be soft like everyone else. Of course, she still cares about everyone, but if it's between supporting herself and Moxie or some silly morals, then it's a no-brainer. And that's why at the end of the episode, she leaves and breaks down in a call with her sister about a secret she can't tell the rest of the cast. The secret being her pregnancy. How does this show consistently fumble the bag every single time? I think a lot of people misunderstand this character, since she has no angst. So I've decided to make her deal with the stress and turmoil of childbirth. Thank you so much, Vivziepop. Very cool. This was supposed to be a section about Blitz and Stolis, but I just needed to talk about this travesty of writing. I'm still not over it. Before I go into another tangent, I need to focus back on Blitz and Stolis. I feel like Vivziepop is too precious with some of her characters. Like, they can do wrong, but not too wrong, you know? So at the end of the day, they're still likable and fans don't have to feel bad for drawing art of them and talking about them. I find this protective writing at every point of the Blitz-Stolis relationship. In season 1, a common belief was that Stolis and Blitz had met recently, but I guess the idea of their relationship being built on just that was too icky. So now they're childhood friends. What about all of the people whose lives they've ruined? Fizz has a very understandable reason to hate Blitz. He burnt down his old circus and ruined his horns. Now Vivzi has said that this show is about a hell of a boss, so this would be a good thing to focus on. How can we as an audience continue to root for this guy? And how will Blitzo repent for this? He doesn't. The entire thing was an accident, and actually Blitz wanted to explain this to Fizz, but we never find out who these people are, lied to him and said Fizz didn't want to see him. So just to make sure we all understand what just happened here. Step 1. Introduce a character who is kind of an arsehole and has bad history with Blitz. Step 2. Reveal that the two were actually childhood friends but drifted apart for an unknown reason. Step 3. Reveal that your main character burnt down the other characters' everything. Step 4. Milk that for all of the drama it's worth. But actually, step 5, ignore step 4 and reveal that everything was an accident and how it's nobody's fault. Am I having a stroke? You know, for someone who loves to write drama, you sure picked a weird time to not write some drama. You struck gold with this, and I am watching you burn it and throw it all away. I was gonna light a piece of paper on fire for this joke, but my landlord said that I wouldn't be allowed to squat here anymore. If the point is that Blitz and Stolis are crummy people, then let them be crummy to people and work on that. It's even worse when you look at Stolis. His wife openly discusses wanting to murder him, and I thought, that sucks, but hey, he did cheat on her for an imp. A common theme you have no doubt noticed is that every time I seem to think, I'm punished for it. I needed to explain that to you because I don't trust you as a person enough to pay attention to figure it out yourself. Anyway, this could have been an interesting look into Stolis' life. How could he ruin his family for another? How could you repent? He doesn't. It turns out he was forced to marry his ex-wife, who is a total psychopath, so him cheating really wasn't that bad. Later on, a character exposes Stolis for breaking the law by giving Blitz his grimoire. This other character then takes all of Stolis' assets and deems him unfit to be the head of the family. They are also torturing Octavia, the next heir to the throne, the entire time. If you just remove the trait of these two being Disney villain levels of evil, they're kinda right. Stolis broke the law, broke his family, and then ruined his daughter's life. He isn't fit to be the next heir, and that could be something the show has him deal with. But if Stolis has these traits, then that would make him less likable to the audience. I mean, how could anyone like a character with relatable flaws? Stolis and Blitz's flaws could be as simple as the two just being selfish and doing things that hurt others around them. That would probably resonate a lot with an audience. Instead, all of their horrible actions are softened by the fact that they either weren't responsible or the other person involved is the second coming of Mary the First. A broken home is a very relatable trope. If it wasn't obvious from the videos I make on my channel, I'm super fatherless. But for some reason, I'm unable to recall the moment my dad sat me down for a talk and said, "Ty, your mother is the embodiment of everything wrong with the world, and I was forced to marry her at a young age, so I'm gonna go have sex with a pool boy instead." also I'm a bisexual. Because something like that, as funny as it would be, wouldn't happen. Of course, not every experience is gonna be like mine, but I feel like Octavia's specific position is so unrelatable. There could have been a real discussion on whether Stolis should go and see his daughter again. Instead, this discussion is stopped before it can ever start because his wife is... Okay, what other political figure can I name that isn't Hitler? Stalin? If the antagonists of the final episodes are any more complicated than I am the bad guy, whoa, we might stop seeing this conflict as black and white, and maybe even reevaluate our opinions on Stolis. But that can't happen. Aren't they so cute together? Don't think about all the many flaming, cancerous hoops we had to jump through to get here. It is the illusion of writing a flawed character. I'd go as far as to say that it's the illusion of writing anything. This entire season, the writers have gone with the most safe, boring, and confusing routes with every character. Even when I like something, it is now surrounded by all of this other crap, and I just don't care about it. That would already suck. But this show dares to act like more is going on, constantly getting my hopes up with the tease that something might happen, something might make me like this show again, and every time I am left disappointed. I'm frustrated because I enjoyed season 1 so much. It was fun, and now whenever I try to reminisce about that, I'm gonna get flashbanged by all of season 2's weird decisions. And unfortunately, a lot of these can be traced back to one place. After spending all this time watching, writing, and writing some more about Hazbin and Helluva, I feel confident in saying that I do not understand any of these shows on a fundamental level. Not because I haven't tried, and not because I'm an idiot. Scientists are still looking into that one, but because I am not Vivziepop. This show has been bubbling around in Vivzi's brain for over a decade. So when I'm left stunned at a decision made, Vivzi might think this is a perfect payoff to an idea she had like 5 years ago or whatever. And that's where the disconnect comes from me. These shows are really good things to write a wiki on. If you look at those, you'll have an incredible time. All of the characters are fleshed out, a lot of their actions make more sense, and there is a lot of side lore you learn. Like a character's race. But when all of these ideas need to be put into a single season of TV, it all crumbles apart. Hazbin feels so bloated because Vivzi is trying to show off all of these characters and their lore, but Vivzi also has no idea how to do that properly, so we just get that character explaining their feats, or if you're lucky, another character doing the same thing. It also just seems like Vivzi doesn't trust her audience to get it, you know?
Do you feel any kind of remorse for what you do? Have you ever even apologized once in your life?
Oh, you think I can't apologize? For what? You want me to be like, oh, sorry, this entire time I assumed the worst because I was convinced a prince could never love someone like me, and I've let my self-hatred stop me from apologizing to anyone I could never care about.
Piss off. Unless you are strictly told how to feel about a character, Vivzi thinks you won't get it. That's why she tweeted out how Millie is a lot deeper than the fans think, because showing us that wasn't an option, I guess. This is kinda a running trend too. Something that I noticed is that there was a lot of lampshading on stuff. Like season 3 of Hazbin, there's that whole meeting that ends abruptly, so a character says, haha, we literally just got here. Alastor is getting glazed. Oh, we call him the radio demon, as lazy as that sounds. Angel then makes fun of the exposition as if he didn't ask for it, making fun of the Vaggie reveal and then the angelic weapons too.
That's how they can kill us? With our own weapons? Fucking weak, dude!
Charlie's having an argument with her dad, and a character grabs popcorn and then says, drama! Yes, haha. The writers are self-aware, please ignore the bad writing. Oh man, you know what Breaking Bad was missing? A moment where something serious happens and then a character says, well, that was awkward. This plus the constant tweets defending her writing style makes me feel like Vivzi is really insecure about her writing. Most people are. But the way of dealing with that isn't to be in on the joke. You shouldn't look at a piece of bad writing, laugh and say, I know, right? I suck. Honestly, just tweeting about it in general is a little odd to me. Nothing good ever comes from wait, Seth Rogan? This was something I hinted at over an hour ago now, but I need to talk about this tweet. The big joke with Vivziepop cartoons is the excessive use of swearing. I don't really care, but I did want to explain the difference between South Park and the other two. South Park swearing is funny because it's children doing it. It's even funnier when the adults openly cuss in front of the kids. No one making a big deal out of it, and then a much smaller thing happening, and that is treated like the end of the world. Parents tried taking it off the air because of that. Hazbin is set in hell with adult characters, so when they swear, I'm not shocked. It makes sense. They're in hell. What could have been subversive is if the characters don't swear, so randomly dropping an F-bomb would be funnier. This is foreshadowing, by the way. When someone does anything a lot, it loses all meaning. So when characters drop a bunch of weird sex jokes in a row, I stop smiling and begin to become indifferent. When a character makes a bunch of gross jokes and then says that he named someone Vaggy after the best thing ever, I just groan. A tweet like this kinda self-reports that you understand that something is funny, but not why. I was planning on talking about how terrible it is for a showrunner to tweet some of the stuff that Vivzi said on Twitter, but Vivzi privated their account and who cares? It represents such a tiny issue in a much larger list of problems, which I almost seem to be at the end of. Creating something is so much harder than criticizing it. I mean, objectively, these shows took hundreds of people all working together for it to even work for a few seconds. Now, turn that into 28 episodes of TV and it only gets more messier and more complicated. This video obviously took time and planning, but I don't think I could have ever managed something on the scale of an actual TV show. Vivzi doing as well as she did is worth admiring, I think. So why title the video The Vivziepop Problem? I know that would get a bunch of people who were just frothing at the mouth to hear about some dumb Twitter drama all hot and bothered, but I felt it was appropriate. Hazbin Hotel is the face of indie animation. You can argue with a wall, that is objectively true. No other indie project reached the same level of success and popularity of Hazbin until Digital Circus. But Hazbin managed to keep its hype alive for 5 whole years while we waited for the show to drop. Things don't usually do that. Something that was massive on the internet yesterday can just disappear and lose all popularity. It's insane how fast things pick up and die. You have to have some real staying power to be as popular as Hazbin is now, and has been. Which is why I think this is so disappointing. 2 popular shows, tons of merch, so many views, fans, and yet these shows are bad. But if you say anything bad about the show, you get rinsed. YouTubers don't want to talk about the show anymore because of how poisoned the discussion around it has become. A title like Why I Don't Like X Thing wouldn't really summarize the issue I have here. The core issue is that the person who wrote all of this, all of their confusing choices and their inability to take criticism, which has been an ongoing issue for nearly a decade. Look, I acknowledge the Seth Rogan tweet is minute, it doesn't matter, but it still kind of proves my point. We don't like your swearing. Oh well, I was inspired by so-and-so, so your criticism is invalid and you don't have a sense of humor. Why? Why do you feel this need to respond to the most low-hanging fruit criticisms of your show, instead of, I don't know, the actual ones? All of the issues I've lined out in this video, none of these things I don't think have ever been addressed outside of Millie. I wanted to like these shows. They've allowed so many people who would have normally gone unnoticed to actually get the recognition they deserve. It has opened the door for so many other shows to be made. Proof that people who have ideas can actually see them through. It's just really disheartening when the main show that people will think of when they hear the term indie animation are these ones. Because I think they're a terrible representation for the genre. I don't think Hazbin and Helluva should be dismissed because they are bad. I think people should criticize this show without harassing people. I can't believe I have to say that, but yeah. so it improves and so others don't make similar mistakes. I was burnt a lot by these shows. Definition of edging and all that. But at the end of the day, I'm still holding out hope I can enjoy at least one of these shows again, so I can come back and say how wrong I was. Part of me wants to believe the stress of writing for 2 shows might have caused the situation we're now in. But truthfully, I will probably never know. But hey, to all the people watching this in the future, you should totally write me a bunch of notes for season 2 of Hazbin whenever that releases, because there is no way I am ever doing this again. This video is so long. Why? I have basically worked on this video every single day since the new year, and I am so grateful and tired and Thank you for watching this long ass video. To the people who made it to the end, which is like 4, let's be real, thanks. You should totally comment something funny like, wow, I can't believe Ty actually started a forest fire for a video. I want people to think I commit war crimes now. I also want to thank the people funding these evil, nefarious deeds, my patrons, and more specifically, the $5 and higher ones. V1, Pwep, much appreciated, Obscuroni, and Po-Fanatic, or Ishrafel's Fire. You guys keep the lights on, and also let me buy stupid stuff at Disney World. So, thank you. And with that, I bid you adieu. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Go fuck yourselves. See you, lads.